Welcome to this video of the round 11 game of the candidates tournament between Andreikin and Mamedyarov. Yeah, to sum up the players' standings before this game, Andreikin on -1. Not much of a chance to still catch up to Anand. Mamedyarov on 50%. Yeah, it's still a long way from overtaking first place. But okay, you need to at least try to figure out ideas how how Anand could be catched. Otherwise, the tournament would be terribly boring. But yeah, Mamedyarov, I mean, he needs a win basically to get a slight chance, but it is very, very slight, admittedly. Let's see what they did in the game. Andreikin playing knight f3. Yeah, he plays all opening moves, so we cannot really tell about a surprise or anything. Yeah, we got a queen's gambit, declined at first, but okay, it's going to be a Catalan. Yeah, should Mamedyarov have played something a bit sharper? Yeah, well, I don't know. He went for this, and here played the move c5, which is quite... yeah, how to classify the move, it's hard to tell. Sometimes you have... you can attach certain labels to moves like, oh, this is very boring, this is very solid, this is very sharp, cannot really do that to c5. It's sort of a middle of the road move. Especially it's allowing one or two lines that are really a bit dull. If you really want to fight like, I don't know, to fight for a win as black, once you enter this, you could argue for the move like b5, which is very risky, of course, but you could argue that for the black player only a win counts in a way. Okay, but he played c5. He played c5, castles, knight c6, and here we come to the point where I said that white can play a line after which it is very dull, and this is what Andreikin did. He took on c5. Dull in this respect is maybe a bit disrespectful. It's not a bad move at all, but it's more interesting, of course, here for white to play a gambit in a gambit style like knight e5, for example, which is that's actually the line that I play myself in this position when I reach it. The idea is that this is a very direct mistake. Still happens in blitz games quite often.
Check.
People simply, if they don't know the line, it seems like e3 is a tricky move to spot. Okay, this is not the real idea. Of course, the idea is that white is threatening here, so bishop b7, and then something like that is the follow-up, where white has very nice pieces in the center and still this good bishop. This is a fine or an okay line for black, but it's a bit more complicated than d takes c5. Okay, the idea is that what white is doing is that you will get this pawn back, and black here is actually forced to play this c3 move what he played in the game. If black is not doing that, let's say castles, yeah, then white takes and has an excellent position. It's as simple as that, as white will get to e5 and will play with a good bishop on g2 for no particular compensation of black side. This is why black abandons the pawn with c3 to worsen the pawn structure. Something similar happened today also in the Kramnik-Anand game. Castles, knight b3, bishop e7, and c4. All this looks very normal, and we have a struggle in this position between white's very good positioned pieces, or well-positioned pieces like the bishop, and white has this slight structural damage on the queen side. This is black's compensation for the fact that he is not so actively placed with the bishop and has some space disadvantage. The next couple of moves are very logical and have been played before. Bishop b2, rook d8, knight to d4, and rook to c8. All this looks so normal that I really don't want to elaborate very long on that. knight to b5. Yeah, this is introducing ideas maybe to capture, take on a7, and here b6 was played. Yeah, what happens if white captures now? The problem is the rook capture that attacks c4 immediately, so it's not a good idea. And Andreikin played rook c1. Yeah, it's not a terribly exciting position, I must admit. And a5 now played by Mamedyarov. Yeah, at some point you need to take care of the a-pawn, and this is what he did here. It looks a bit weakening, okay, but it also has active ideas like a4 and maybe knight a5. So let's say white now plays a4 himself, yeah. And Andreikin was already spending huge amounts of time. It's really remarkable that he very often does not, I mean, I'm just speculating, does not know the lines and finds it all over the board. It's really possible. This has happened quite a number of times in this tournament, that he had spent lots of time and the opponent was basically just playing the preparation. And here he always took a couple of minutes for all the theoretical moves. Yeah, a4, if you don't do that, let's say white plays a nothing move, then black goes a4 and knight a5, and this you don't really want to have. c4 gets weak, so a4 is probably a move you need to play. And now bishop e8 by Mamedyarov. Yeah, now Andreikin took on d8, and believe it or not, we are still in a position that had been played before. In a, I think, I found a game here, Delchev, a very strong Bulgarian grandmaster, against Lanes Hurtado, a Spanish player, quite good player, almost 2,500 rated last year. The Spanish player took on d8 with the knight, and this in fact after c5 takes, knight takes, led to a position that is somewhat favorable for white. The a-pawn is a factor, and you will get the knight nicely back to c4. Well, black does not have many active possibilities. He lost this game in the end, and it's not much fun to play. Mamedyarov, however, took with the rook, and this seems to be the more precise decision. We see that play is getting quite similar to the mentioned game. Yeah, what happens now if here c5 is played? Just like in this mentioned game. Yeah, one point is that if we look at this traits, there is the move rook d1, and this looks really uncomfortable. Knight d2 is threatened, and after rook c1, probably necessary. At the end, black gets good play against the a4 pawn. This will probably still end in a draw, but it's simply nothing to play for. So c5 is no move. He played h3. This is directed against this rook d1 resource with check, with bishop f1 necessary. Now you get a flight square on h2. Yeah, knight b4 was played now, and this is again directed against c5, which was played anyway. But the thing is, if white is not going for c5 and fixes his structural problem, then long term this might be an issue. If you consider, let's say white plays non-forcing moves that do nothing, I'll just put it on the board. You can easily imagine a position where, I know this doesn't make any sense, the white moves, where black can get the knight to c5, or alternatively you can also use this knight. If you can firmly blockade on c5, especially with a knight, then a4 and c4 become long-term problems. So white basically needs to play c5 in this position, which he did. And the bad news for the spectator is, if you look at this, black needs to take, and white will take on a5 now. Yeah, now we have a position where this is a weak pawn and this is a weak pawn. And the next couple of moves are completely logical, and simply look at this, reduce the complete queenside to nothing. Yeah, now the only thing is white has got two bishops, but that's it really. A couple of moves later, we also got rooks traded, and we came to this endgame, which is certainly certainly nice with two bishops. But there is really not much going on, with all pawns being on one side of the board and black having no structural weakness. This could be mildly interesting if black would have some sort of double pawn, or yeah, I mean, not even a double pawn would make it interesting. Let's say the g7 pawn on h6 or something without being able to capture it. I mean, a serious weakness, but it's not. It's simply not on the board. It's just a perfectly sound position. Yeah, and I won't do anything in terms of commentary on these moves. They tried for a bit, of course, but I mean, Andreikin tried. Black can do absolutely zilch here. Yeah, they actually had this end of the game. Bishop takes e6. And this counter sacrifice. Okay, well, there is simply nothing going on. At the end, we have this position, which is obviously completely dead. Black just puts a king on g7 and then moves the knight to wherever, and the g-pawn is never going anywhere. Yeah, this was in fact at the end a really boring game. But it is sometimes happening out of just logically out of the structure. Which, oops, this was too much, sorry. Yeah, this line actually has the reputation of being slightly better for white, but it simply didn't materialize. It seems that black played a very solid setup here. And right here is, just as I said, if white does not play c5, he will stand worse, and c5 just leads to the complete clearance of the queen side at the end. And not much to be done. Yeah, well, is should Mamedyarov played a bit sharper? I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can always tell nice stories after you know that the game is ending in a very boring draw. But yeah, maybe he's just saying, okay, I'm playing good moves and see what happens. This is maybe a good way to go about it. I mean, after all, catching Anand being 1.5 points down with 4 games to go is almost impossible anyway. You need some help from Anand, basically. Maybe blunder something, but it's not looking like that. Okay, so at the end, not too exciting game here. I hope you enjoyed the brief coverage anyway. Thanks for watching.